Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we're continuing on with the series on the Qur'anic understanding of the word Jew. More specifically, the root hawada, as this is usually what is translated as Jew or those who were Jews, based on the words Yahud, Hudan, and alladina hadu. Now those are three different words, but they have exactly the same meaning pretty much throughout the Quran, except for a few cases where it doesn't work. And I'm going to try to elucidate to you what that could possibly refer to. Remember, of course, that in this day and age, we have the concept of Abrahamic religions, and that concept is contingent on there existing three different religions, all claiming to follow Ibrahim. Those, of course, being Christianity, Judaism, Islam. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because there is only one religion from Ibrahim in the Quran. And this concept is fabricated basically to what I'm going to inshallah explain later in this presentation, create some kind of a unimaginable conflict, perhaps even in our time, based on this complete misunderstanding of what is revealed to us in the Quran from Allah. So what I'm noticing is when you look at these words Yahud, Hudan, alladina hadu, they boil down basically to be a Jew, to repent, and the name of a prophet in the Quran called Prophet Hud. And I looked at pretty much every iteration from colloquial Arabic as well as classical Arabic, and what it seems like is some kind of a designation for a people that are just indulgent, forbearing, lenient, complacent. They are obliging. They just go along with things. They're reasonable to get along with. Very moderate, docile kind of people. Very tolerant of everything. Forbearing. They're very complacent, you know. And of course, this looks on the surface to be a very good thing. But I don't think anybody would want to be complacent necessarily. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. The more that you allow in your society, the more vulnerable you are to all kinds of corruption. And there is a religion in the world today that fits this description very well, geographically and through their actions. And we'll get into that in another video. But basically, what it boils down to is these are people that are incredibly pursuant of a modern type of lifestyle. That's what we see. And in an essence, the most, I don't like to limit this to geographic borders, but this is what politically and socially we see to be the case in the West, in the Western world. They're the ones that allow all kinds of laws. If you just look at the screen, you can find like examples of that, right? They're the ones that are subsided and they're alleviated, and basically they proceed slowly. And that one is really interesting to me because to proceed slowly in the English language is referring to someone that is progressing. So they are taking small steps at a time to reach an ultimate goal, or at least maintain a continuous direction to a certain endpoint, if there is even an endpoint. What you see is these are people of progress. And progress is a neutral term. Now, in our day and age, where these people are very prominent in the world right now, okay, especially if you live in the West, the millet of these people, or at least I should say the lifestyle of these people, is to basically worship progress, to not stay in the same spot, not be bound by any traditions, to continuously go after some goal as if that is the only purpose in life. And what you're going to find is that clearly these people embody so much of what we call in the Quran kufr, blasphemy, or ungratefulness, because they're constantly trying to traverse the boundaries of what God, the Creator, has set up for us. Why? Well, they style themselves as gods in a sense, and in the Quran they are known to be something of the nature of what we would call Egypt spiritually, where you had rulers that self-style themselves as gods in the flesh. Interesting terminology there. And so really progress is one of the most important words when it comes to this root. It has to do with something to do with progress. It's even like how you recite a lullaby to a child. You do it slowly. You're constantly progressing towards the end. And these people are very prominent in science, and as well as in the forefront of all of the novel legislation and world affairs and politics. I mean, it's almost like these people represent the modern age. So what we're going to look at is these verses, because I just introduced the idea in the first part, just to kind of expand why this term of Jew cannot possibly work in all cases. If it can't work in all cases, then it doesn't work at all. So I just wanted to show you what kind of connotation progress has. Because progress could be something towards hell. It could be something that's very dangerous, and there's no limitation to it, right? There are no checks and balances, in a sense. But it can also be something good as well, because when a society is backwards, obviously progress would be something that brings you out of that dark age where we see a lot of this, in the world today as well. Immorality spreading, whether it's from traditions people inherit, or whether it's from innovations that people have added over time. They're both neutral in a sense, and if you look in the Quran, there are certain messengers that are sent to certain civilizations because of this very thing. They have a specific problem that can only be addressed with a specific solution. So progress denotes a forward or onward movement toward a destination. It's often associated with advancement, which literally means movement, or development toward a better, more complete, and key word is more modern condition. So again, breaking away from traditions. When we look at Nasara, this is like the complete mirror image of Nasara. Move forward or onward in space or time, advance or develop. And even the whole thing has to do with progress, because when something is being carried out and it's not finished, we call that in progress. And this is exactly what we see, that this basically in Hawid, to go along with, to be reasonable, enter in a discussion or negotiations without reaching a result. That's in Egyptian Arabic. Okay? So if you want to watch the first part to get a better idea of what this implies, I recommend that you do so. So the first one we should look at is alladhina hadu. So this is a term in the Quran that's used many times, and basically it denotes a trait of these people. Alladhina hadu, the ones who progressed. I believe this is in past tense. Because when Allah is talking, He's talking outside of time. So this would be valid for after the day, when the day arrives in the hereafter. And really what we see here, I'm just going to show you where this is used. Okay? So we're told that this verb form has to do with being Jewish. Okay? But there's only one problem, because when they're speaking in first person plural, they don't say we have Jewed, we have become Jewish. They translate it as we have turned. Turned to what? We have turned toward you, our Lord. Okay, we're going to look at this example. But it says we have turned toward you. In other words, you can say, we have progressed toward you. It even denotes a direction, which is so fascinating. Okay? So let's look at alladhina hadu. I'll put the translation here, and there'll be some kind of a analysis from that. So it says, indeed, those who believed and those who were Jews or Christians or Sabians, alladhina hadu, one of them, those who believed in Allah and the last day and did righteousness will have their reward with their Lord, and no fear will there be concerning them, nor will they grieve. Okay? So basically we see that alladhina hadu are one of those who can attain a reward their Lord has, and has also confided by Allah. So there's another stipulation, and the day of the last day, and worked salihan. So these are kind of works that reconcile things in the world. And no fear is upon them, nor are they grieving. So right off the bat, what we see here is that these people are one of the people promised, essentially, Jannah, the paradise. Okay? If these were separate religions, you would have to think as well, Sabians among them, this is a incredibly small, minuscule group of people. And somehow they have an equivalent reward when Allah's religion is one. Remember we said Ibrahim has one millet. Okay? So these people are basically not at all like, these are traits of believers. Okay? Indeed, the ones who believed and those who became Jews, really, that's what they put. وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ. These are categories of people that are far more broad than the religious connotation that they're given. Okay? And that makes sense because the Quran applies in all cases, for all time, for all situations. Okay? So people that have never heard of Judaism or Sabianism or Islam or Christianity, it will still apply. And that's the amazing thing about the Quran, is it's a revelation for the worlds. Okay? So let's look at the next one. Among the Jews are those, so it says, from alladhina hadu are those who distort words from their usages and say, we hear and disobey, and hear but be not heard, and ra'ina. Okay? Twisting their tongues and defaming the religion. And if they had said, we hear and obey and wait for us, it would have been better for them and more suitable. But Allah has cursed them for their disbelief, so they believe not except a few. So, from them are those who pervert the words out of their conveyance. Okay, this is key. And what we're going to notice is a category of them actually do this, and they have written all kinds of lies with pen and paper and in the media. Okay, that will be the next video, inshallah. And they say, we hear and we oppose, and hear without musma'in. So this word is related to hearing as well. I don't know how to define this word, but I just left it there just so you can see the context. And we are herding. You can look at the root of this word relating to shepherding. Okay? Bending by their tongues, and we refute in the deen. And if only they had said, we hear and we comply, and hear and we observe, surely was it better for them and most straight. However, Allah cursed them by their kufr. So this is related to blasphemy, right? It's related to like transgressing Allah's deen. So they believe not except a few. Okay? So we'll go to the next one. This is just so you get an idea of this trait, this category of humanity. For wrongdoing on the part of alladhina hadu, we made unlawful for them good foods which had been lawful to them, and for their averting from the way of Allah, many. From them are, so it says, from them are those who oppressed. So Allah sanctioned upon them good things made lawful to them, and by their hindering many out of a way of Allah. So you can see that they're constantly trying to upset the balance. And this is related to their approach to life. Okay, it's just part of human nature. that this category of people will exist, irrespective of any religious beliefs. Okay, this is internalized. This is something that is part of human psychology. Okay, I believe it's 541. Yeah. O Messenger, let them not grieve you who hasten into disbelief of those who say, we believe with their mouths, but their hearts believe not. And from alladina hadu, avid listeners to falsehood, listening to another people who have not come to you. They distort words beyond their usages, saying, if you are given this, take it, but if you are not given it, then beware. But he for whom Allah intends fitna, never will you possess for him a thing against Allah. Those are the ones for whom Allah does not intend to purify their hearts. For them in this world is disgrace, and for them in the hereafter is a great punishment. I just want to make sure that you understand these translations are only preliminary. They are not definitive, and the reason being, this has not been... I haven't looked at this in a while because I had this presentation ready for... a long time ago in the past, but I would have to kind of go back and really apply some newer methodologies to this. But this is just to show you kind of a more verbatim, from Arabic to English understanding, to the best of my ability. And from the ones who progressed, of listeners to the lie. So what is the lie? I'm going to show you in a second. Listeners to the lie of, or falsehood, of listeners to a people of akhirin, the last people, not brought to you. They pervert the words after their conveyance. Again, same idea, right? They say, if you all are given this, then take it. And if you are not given this, then beware. So let's look at what this lie is, because it's actually defined in the Quran if you just choose to look. And they assign to Allah what they dislike and assert their tongues the lie. That for them is the best. No doubt that for them is the fire, and that they will be abandoned. So this is the lie. They assign to Allah what they dislike and assert their tongues. And you can see other examples of this, the falsehood. It basically has to do with people who don't believe in these verses. Okay? They're kind of on the path of what we would call atheists today, or humanists, okay? So let's look at chapter 5, verse 44. Again, imagine if this just applied to Jews today. This would make the Quran extremely offensive to anyone that just so happens to be born a Jew. But if it's talking about qualities and actions of people, alladina hadu, that's an action performed by somebody, then that's completely just, because the person has free will to either be in this category or not. Okay? Indeed, we sent down the Torah, in which was guidance and light. The prophets who submitted judged by it for the Jews, alladina hadu, as did the rabbis and scholars by that which they were entrusted of the scripture of Allah, and they were witnesses thereto. So do not fear the people, but fear me, and do not exchange my verses for a small price. And whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, then it is those who are the disbelievers. Okay? Indeed, we made descend the Torah. In her is guidance and light. Ruled by her did the informers and Nabiyin of the ones who yielded to the ones who progressed, and the Rabbaniyun and the Ahbar, by what they were entrusted from Allah's book, and they were witnesses upon it, so you will not be concerned of mankind. And be concerned and do not exchange my verses a small fortune. And whosoever rules not by what Allah made descend, then those of them are the obfuscators. This is the word in Arabic called kafirin. Okay? So the words kafirin, Rabbaniyun, Ahbar, Tawrat, are all related to these people. So of course, on the surface, it makes sense. Of course, yeah, we're told that the Jews are associated with the Torah. But you have to look really carefully at what this implies. These are universal laws. These ayat apply to the worlds. It doesn't just apply to human history. It applies to jinn history as well. what we see now is these two categories called Rabbaniyun and the Ahbar, which we're going to look at in the next video, inshallah. And notice that these verses, these ayat, are exchanged for wealth, a small fortune. Okay? They are choosing something else to rule by, to judge by, and hence they are obfuscating or covering the verses of God. Okay? These are all things to consider with these people, okay? Now this one is interesting. We have another reference to these people, or these category of people, people that are born and have come and experienced this category of people, offered paradise. Indeed, those who have believed, and those who were alladina hadu, or as-sabi'un. But it doesn't say or. Think about it. It says and. Okay? Alladina hadu, was-sabi'in, wan-nasara. Okay? Those who believed in Allah and the last day and did righteousness, no fear will there be concerning them, nor will they grieve. You have to ask yourself, as a traditional, by the book, hadith and Muslim, okay, if such thing exists, how are these people rewarded? They've put in there in the verse that these are people before the Prophet Muhammad. But then they tell us these people still exist. You see? So there's nothing in there that suggests believing in the Prophet Muhammad. This is interpolated in the verse. He's talking about categories of people that are not time-bound. They have existed at least since this Quran came down. They're offered paradise twice. I'm going to show you these verses, why this is so critical. Because what it suggests is these are not religions in the sense that we understand them today, but they are traits of humanity. They are experiences of humanity collectively on some kind of a metaphysical path towards the middle people. And basically they, to me, constitute starting points that everyone has when they're on their path towards the truth. It has nothing to do with you were born Jewish, you were born to a Christian family. The Quran doesn't even have words for these things. I already showed you how Jude could not possibly make sense. In all cases, the word is used. And in all words, it's attested to be Jewish. An-Nasara is even easier to prove, which I'll do that in a later video, inshallah. So, what we see is they're also one of those who, if they confided by Allah and the last day and worked righteousness or reconciling works, then no fear is upon them, nor are they grieving. Now, between chapter 2, verse 62, and chapter 5, verse 69, there is actually a change in the order. And this is something so amazing I'm going to share with you, inshallah, later. Probably not in this video, but I just want to elaborate on these three words, Alladina hadu, Hudan, and Al-Yahud. So you can compare why they're different. The ones who progressed, okay? So chapter 6, verse 146, again, they're just saying these are people who became Jews or are Jews. Okay? And to those who are Jews. Now, it's interesting because this is in past tense. Alladina hadu. Those who were Jews. How could this possibly make sense? They are still Jews apparently in the world. I'm going to show you also that Jews don't even believe in things that the Quran allegedly claims about them, which would obviously, from an outside perspective, from an ignorant perspective of ignorance, would think that the Quran is ignorant of what Jews are. The only solution to that is it is not describing what we call Jews. And to those who are alladina hadu, and upon alladina hadu, we prohibited every animal of uncloven hoof, and of the cattle and the sheep we prohibited to them their fat, except what adheres to their backs or the entrails, or what is joined with bone. That we repaid them for their injustice, and indeed we are truthful. Okay, I'm going to show you a more one-to-one ratio of this verse, okay, from Arabic. Allah sanctioned upon them every bearer of claws, and from the cattle and the sheep He sanctioned upon them their suet, except what their backs carry, or of the viscera, or what is combined by a bone. That is what Allah doubly rewarded them by their tyranny, and He is certainly of the sadiqeen, truthful ones. Now let's look at the really crucial verse for understanding what alladina hadu mean. This is a story with Musa, okay? And if you go to this chapter and this verse, these verses for context, you will see Judaism didn't even exist yet at this time officially, okay? Which is why they don't put those who are Jews, okay? Look at what it says. And decree for us in this world good, and in the hereafter. Indeed, we have turned back to you. It doesn't say we have become Jews to you, okay? Said, my punishment, I afflict with it whom I will, but my mercy encompasses all things. So I will decree it for those who fear me and give zakah, and those who believe in our verses. It doesn't say those who fear me, by the way. It says those who are conscious. Okay? Now, let me look at what it says here. This is the story of 70 men that Musa chose, and they were struck by the tremor. And so Musa pleads with Allah to not destroy them for what the foolish from them have done. Musa says Allah is his patron, and he asks forgiveness. And he says, we have progressed toward you. Allah responds that He afflicts whoever He wills, and His mercy encompasses all things. He will record His fitna for the ones who confide by His verses. Okay? Now notice this. Musa is speaking in this verse. Is Musa becoming a Jew? Of course not. None of these prophets, none of these informers of Allah that were sent as messengers, none of them are Jews or Christians. You will see that very clearly because what they're coming with is the Millat Ibrahim. Ibrahim is none of these categories. Neither Yahud, neither Nasara. Okay? He was a middleman, like literally the one in the middle between these two extremes. So, of course, they would say, we have repented toward you, okay? Or they'll say, we have turned back to you. Why not say, we have progressed toward you? Okay? Allah's mercy, He understands everyone has a certain context to where they're born, who their parents are, what path they have in life, what afflictions they are tested with. So He's not going to hold against somebody and favor somebody who just happens to be born in a family that recites hadith all day. Okay? Let's look at the next verse. So, chapter 16, verse 118. Again, it says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ هَادُوا. It doesn't say to those who are Jews. It says, upon the ones who hadu. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ هَادُوا. We have prohibited that which we related to you before, and we did not wrong them, but they were wronging themselves. And Allah prescribed upon them what He related before, and He did not oppress them, they oppressed themselves. Okay? They're related with oppression in this world. That's just a pattern that the Quran is pointing to. Okay? If you just substitute alladina hadu with the ones who progressed, it will make so much sense because this is a specific category of human psychology. Now we have this verse, which is unlike the ones prior that I mentioned, because it doesn't say any reward here. It says, indeed, those who have believed, and those who were Jews, and the Sabians, and the Christians, and the Magians, and those who associated with Allah, Allah will judge between them on the day of resurrection. Indeed, Allah is over all things witness. So, these are the categories, okay? Now here they put and, because it's not confronting anymore, because there's no promise of paradise mentioned. And there's two other categories of people mentioned here. Al-Majus, wal-ladina ashraku. So that changes now the entire end of the verse that we saw before twice in the Quran. Okay? But the thing to point out is, in the other verses, you are seeing these people go to paradise, essentially. Some kind of a reward at the end of this test. And finally, this is something interesting too. we go to the very last mention of الَّذِينَ هَادُوا. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا. Are we just meant to talk to Jews in this life as warners with the Qur'an? Of course not. This is a section of humanity that is vast, exactly like An-Nasara are vast. Okay? So when you see these traits around you, this is what الَّذِينَ هَادُوا are. Okay? قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا. If you claim that you are allies of Allah, excluding people, then wish for death if you should be truthful. Notice, they claim to be patrons for Allah beside mankind. So they should wish for the death if they are sadiqeen. They are not sadiqeen. They are not people of truth. They distort verses from their proper usages. Okay? They're associated with obfuscating the truth. They're associated with basically exchanging the verses for a small price. Just think and reflect where you see this in the world today. This cannot apply to every man, woman, and child from the Jewish religion. It just can't. That would be unjust. That is not a choice where you're born and what you identify as when when you're in a state of ignorance. Okay? Everybody that chooses to do this, in the end, at the end of the day, okay, Allah is singling them out as certain traits from humanity. Okay? So when we go into the meaning of Hud, this becomes even more problematic for the traditionalist that understands Hud as the same as Al-Ladina Hadu, the same as Al-Yahud. We have a prophet in the Quran called Hud. Now, it's interesting as Hudan is exactly the same sound and word as this prophet's name. Hudan. That's his name in the Quran. That's why it's from the same root. So how could this be basically anything but something way more broad and universal? The Hudan, they think they are one of the two designations that can enter paradise. And Allah says it is their wishful thinking and to produce their burhan or evidence if they are truthful ones. Notice, it's consistent with how Allah describes these people. So when you go to Jew, okay, and they say none will enter paradise except one who is a Jew or a Christian. That is their wishful thinking. Say, produce your proof if you should be truthful. I mean, there are some sects of these religions today that don't hold this, so it doesn't work in all cases. Okay? They have more of a kind of pluralistic salvation for all religions anyway. The Abrahamic Accords that are going on in the world today are proof that they are trying to merge these false representations of Ibrahim's religion into some kind of amalgam that renders monotheistic religion completely obsolete. Okay? And if you want to look at, what the justification for that is, just look at a kind of video that I did with Endgame Islam brothers. May Allah reward them for all their work. And the title of the video is A Tale of Two Dajjals. Okay? That will give you more information on what is actually going on with this end times eschatology spoon-fed to us on a daily basis. Okay? So, these Hudan, they think they are one of two designations that are guided. Okay, not just entering Jannah, but even guided. Allah says, nay, Millat Ibrahim Hanifan, and he was not of the mushrikeen. Okay? So when you look at the verse, they say, be a Hudan or a Nasara. Okay? And you will be guided. Say, rather, the religion of Ibrahim, the Millat Ibrahim, inclining toward truth, and he was not of the polytheists. Now, Hanifan they put as inclining toward truth. I'm going to have to talk about that in another video, inshallah. But most people represent this with the word monotheist. Okay? And, of course, it says, وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So, I would argue that mushrikeen would definitely apply with Nasara. Okay? But Hanifan is the solution to what we would call Hudan. That's why they're in that order, I would say, in the verse. Okay? Anyway, perhaps, there's more to it than that. It requires further study. Okay? Then we have the Prophet Hud. Okay? So Nabi Hud, Nabi being an informer, someone who brings news, his major symbol is progress. Okay? Why? Well, because basically he was sent to a people that worshipped deities. They were, at this time, they were mushrikeen. Alright? So, in a positive connotation of hawada, progress. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean this today, obviously. But this meaning is based on how this word is used in the Qur'an. Okay? He was sent to a culture that was backwards. Ad, this civilization they were so advanced, but how they viewed the world was just so mindless and just barbaric. Okay? So he was sent to progress them out of this shirk, because shirk, obviously, it stunts your intelligence. Okay? And he was obviously somebody that wanted to reform all of these practices back to what it should be. So it has a positive connotation, because in the Quran there's a neutrality to these words, right? His name doesn't mean Prophet Jew. Not at all. Okay? So let's look at his story. Hudan, same word. And to Ad, their brother Hud, he said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. Then will you not be conscious of Him? Okay? He warns his people in Ad not to worship deities other than Allah, because they were polytheists, or basically incorporators of God into literally anything. Statues, people, things they create with their hands. Okay? And to Ad, their brother Hud, O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than them. You are not but inventors. Okay? So they fabricate things. That's why he's telling them they're wrong. They're inventing this. This is part of lying. This is part of, being ignorant. Okay? They're an ignorant people. Doesn't matter how advanced they are. His people tell him, you have not brought us clear proofs, and we will never leave our gods, and we are not believers in you. Okay? This is exactly how Ibrahim's people talk. That's why I know Hanifan is related to Hudan. He was sent to a Hud-like people. Now, what's the other prophet that is related to Hud? Salih. Notice, Salihat. Okay? Salih refers to something that is supposed to be reconciled. Sulah is a peace treaty, a armistice. Okay? So Salih's people were politically creating discord between people, severing things, dividing things. They were called Thamud. So he was sent to reform that back. He was sent to reconcile that, because they were very corrupt. Okay? And then what we see with Hud is the opposite type of solution to the opposite type of problem. Okay? What do we see here? O Hud, you have not brought us clear evidence, and we are not ones to leave our gods on your say-so, nor are we believers in you. Okay? We see that Qawm Fir'aun says the exact same thing. Let me show you this interesting correlation here, because Fir'aun is related to something to do with Hud. Okay? Is this the one? No, it's 7:127, right? So, Qawm Fir'aun came after this civilization called Ad, okay, and said, the chiefs from the people of Fir'aun, will you leave Musa and his people to cause corruption in the earth and forsake you and your gods? Notice how these are Fir'aun's gods, okay? These are not the gods of the people. They're asking Pharaoh. He said, "We will kill their sons and we will let live their women." By the way, this word is not let live. Just look at this word, what it means. Nastahyi. That means make shy. So you can imagine what they were doing. We will make shy their women, and indeed over them we are subjugators. Qahirun. Okay? Notice they are accusing Musa and his people of causing corruption in the earth. Classic projection. And the gods do not belong to the people. These people worship Pharaoh. He says, "I am your Lord most exalted." That's why they tell Pharaoh, "Your gods." Because Pharaoh had gods. Okay? These demonic entities, probably one of them possessed him at some point, you know. But when you see it, it's like he is the object of worship, the human leader, not a plurality of gods. One false god. Okay? Like Yahweh versus Elohim, a plurality of gods. Okay? So that's an interesting correlation between Hud and Pharaoh. And we know that the Yahud, who we're going to talk about in a minute, they call Osiris son of God. Okay? And then we have, we saved Hud and those who believed with him from a severe punishment. And they were followed in this world with a curse. I think it's 1158. Yeah. And on the day of resurrection, unquestionably, Aad denied their Lord. Then away with Aad, the people of Hud. Okay? So it's just identifying what is happening here. Okay? That's 1160. 1158 says, "When our command came, we saved Hud and those who believed with him by mercy from us, and we saved them from a harsh punishment." And finally, we have a story of Shu'aib. Okay, Shu'aib is a contemporary. Excuse me, he's a contemporary of these civilizations. He says to his people, "O my people, let not dissension from me cause you to be struck by that similar to what struck the people of Noah, or the people of Hud, or the people of Salih, and the people of Lot are not from you far away." So he's a contemporary of the people of Lot in this regard. And the people of Shu'aib are so similar to the people of Hud in a sense, because, you know, what we see in this world is this kind of like constant shifting of the balance of power over time. But you know what's interesting about this is he's warning his people of what happened to these civilizations. So Qawm Hud, Qawm Nuh, Qawm Salih. These people, these civilizations, these peoples are related. They have to have patterns that relate each other to one another. Okay? So this has nothing to do with Judaism, not anything whatsoever. Hud as a progressor, alladhina hadu, the ones who progressed, okay? And this is the adjective, al-Yahud. Why is there a ya in front of this one? This is a ongoing one, Yahud. You know, it's progressing, the progressive, okay? This category of people, al-Yahud, are never spoken of positively. That's why there has to be a distinction between this category of people, with a definite article every single time, pretty much, and the other categories of people, Hud, okay? And al-Ladina Hadu. Alright? So let's look at al-Yahud. This is going to be very interesting, but we're taught that this word means Jew today. This is how Arabs today say the word Jew, or Jews. However, the evidence for this is from Hebrew, because Yehuda means Judah, comes from Judah, the tribe of Judah. And I may have mentioned this in the last video, it was a while ago, but this word doesn't have anything to do with al-Yahud in Arabic. And I'm going to show you that right now. So if you go to the origin of the word for Jew, we find that Judah is the origin. It's a proper name of one of the sons of Jacob in the Bible. And when you go to what this word means, okay, its origin, it comes from the word yada. Okay, it's just linked to the word yada, which means to praise. So, and notice obviously the Arabic word that's related to it is not Yahud or yada, it's wahda. Okay? So this is an alternative etymology, but when you go to yada, lo and behold, it means hand. Hand. This is what hand is in Arabic. Yada, yad. It's borrowed from hand. You can see right here, Arabic, yad, aid, eid, yad, idum. Okay? To throw, cast, worship, reveal, revere, hold out one's hand. Okay? So the word Judea and Judah, Yehuda, are all derived from the word yad, yada. Strength or authority, but hand. Okay? Which is interesting because hands are mentioned in conjunction with these particular people, al-Yahud. So there's so many intricate connections when you talk about this. Okay? There is no Judah from the perspective of the Quran. There are only people called al-Yahud who hold a huge sway over humanity, and they have nothing to do with the Jewish religion today. Al-Yahud does not equate to Hebrew Yehuda because the latter comes from the word yad or yada, which means hand in both Arabic and Hebrew to this day. So chapter 2, verse 113. Okay, let's see what this says. And, you've noticed obviously that we don't actually see the compilers of this root in this website put al-Yahud as this category. Because it'd be very obvious it cannot all be Jew. But that's what they are. Okay? I mean, that's the same root. Al-Yahud is from this exact same root. Okay? And they said the Yahud, the Nasara are not upon a thing. And said the Nasara, the Yahud are not upon a thing, while they recite the book. Like thus has said the ones that don't know, similar to their saying. So Allah will judge between them, and they of the Qiyamah, in what they were differing. Okay? So what we see here is Al-Yahud say the Nasara are not upon a thing. They precede the book. The Nasara do the same to them. Those who don't know speak similarly, and Allah will judge between them. Okay? Then we go on to the next verse. Chapter 2, verse 120. And never will they be pleased with you, the Yahud, and nor will the Nasara be pleased with you, until you follow their millet. Say, indeed, guidance of Allah is the guidance. Okay? That's how you know Huda Allah is Al-Huda. This is how the Quran works. Al-Huda, Huda Allah. Very, very easy to explain, right? Simple. And if you follow their desires after, which has come to you from knowledge, there's not for you from Allah any protector, and nor is there from Allah any helper. Okay? So, number one, the Yahud and the Nasara have the same religion. Okay? Why? Because these are not separate religions. These are iterations of a common original millet. What I'm going to present to you, inshallah, one day in this series is what Millat Ibrahim actually is. And you'll notice from the vocabulary used against the Yahud in the Quran and the vocabulary used against the Nasara in the Quran, that their ancestors, their ancestral, cultural, religious stream is actually the people of Ibrahim himself. So that's why Ibrahim is the only person that has something called a millet, because the Yahud and Nasara, their millet, they just basically have two madhabs. They have two schools of thought on the same millet. And this millet derives from the time of Ibrahim's people, who he was fighting against. Okay? That's why he is mentioned amongst these people as separate. He has his own millet, while his people follow some other millet. Okay? Al-Yahud and An-Nasara will never be pleased with you until you follow their millet. It's not plural, it's singular. They have one and the same millet. Proof, case and point, it's not separate religions. Not at all. Allah says guidance of Allah is the guidance. And the reason why I was mentioning is because they have an origin point that is common. Ibrahim does not, because he extricated himself from these people. He left what they worship besides Allah, and Allah gave him prophets. He gave him messengers from his sons, from his offspring. Okay? That's why, exactly why, Ibrahim is mentioned alongside contrasting these people. So in chapter 3, verse 67, okay, what we see here is that Ibrahim was not a Yahudiyan and he was not a Nasraniyan, but he was a Hanifan, Musliman, and he was not from the Mushrikeen. Ibrahim was not one of these people. That's why he's related to them. Their origin is with his story. They did not exist, obviously, since his time. Even the official history says that. But what the Quran reveals is they have a common religion. Now let's look at what else do we see. And the Yahud say, and the Nasara say, we are Allah's children. Okay? And His beloved. Say, then why does He punish you for your crimes? Rather, you are human beings from among those He has created. He forgives whom He wills, and He punishes whom He wills. And for Allah is the kingdom of the samawati, the heavens and the earth, and whatever is between them, and to Him is the final destination. Notice, the Yahud and Nasara ascribe sonship of them to Allah. That's shirk. That is polytheistic shirk. This is what we see from all types of religions within this categories of people. Why? We don't have Hinduism in the Quran. There's no word for it officially. We don't have Buddhism. We don't have Sikhism. We don't have Chinese folk religions. Okay, you could say that these are all under the term polytheism, okay, or atheism, but that doesn't speak to how many of these people represent these faiths today. So what they essentially did was they created these religions to invalidate the Quran thereby. So anybody that opens this book and reads a translation that has been prepared to be refuted, okay, they will not see any guidance in this, and they will just say, well, this is just another Abrahamic iteration. Not at all. Not at all. So they ascribe sonship to themselves for Allah, okay, which is forbidden, and it's not even possible. Now let's look at the next verse. O you who are the ones who believe, do not take the Yahud and the Nasara as allies. Some of them are allies of others. And whoever takes them as allies from you, indeed he is one of them. He's from them. Indeed, Allah does not guide the qawm al-dhalimin, the oppressive or wrongdoing people. We see this word al-dhalimin referenced with Ibrahim and his covenant Allah made with him. Our covenant is not with the wrongdoers. So you're not allowed to take these people as your patrons, because they are actually, despite what on the surface we see as some kind of a, cosmic, metaphysical, global war between these people, okay, throughout history, what Allah is actually saying is these modalities, these lifestyles, these vast swaths of nations of people, they are actually, some of them, allies of the others. So there is a conspiracy that they have on the people that are neither. They're in the middle. We made you a middle nation between extremes. Okay? So basically you cannot be of these people because they have a unspoken behind the scenes alliance. Even though on the surface we see that no, they're at war with each other. They hate each other. What you're going to find out is these are not Jews and Christians. Nothing of the sort. Jews and Christians can be included in these categories, but they're not exclusively Jews and Christians. Okay? Let's go on to the next verse. And the Yahud said, Allah's hand is chained. Chained are their hands. Again, hands related to Yahud. Isn't this kind of a miracle that the Quran is knowledgeable of Hebrew? Or that they perhaps created Hebrew because they understood very well what Yahud means, Jew means, and Judaism means. It means hand. The religion of hand, having like a hand in the world. Okay? Chained are their hands and they have been cursed by what they said. No. His hands are extended and he spends how he wills, and surely increase many from them what has been revealed to you from your Lord in rebellion and kufr. Again, we have kufr and rebellion or tyranny, again spoken about by this category of Hawada people, al-ladhina hadu, al-Yahud, Hudan. And we have cast between them al-adawata and al-baghdha ila, until day of resurrection. Every time they kindled a fire of the war, Allah extinguished it, and they strive in the earth corruption, and Allah does not love the corruptors. This is what I want to highlight, is these two categories. This is not something insignificant. Al-adawata, the enmity, wal-baghdha'a, the hatred. Do you know where these words are used? These words, believe it or not, are used in conjunction for two categories of people. Al-Yahud, الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ نَحْنَ نَصَّارَى, the ones who say, indeed we are Nasara. Okay, the same words. And another one, this category of people. The people of Ibrahim. There has already been for you an excellent pattern in Ibrahim and those with him, when they said to their people, indeed we are dissociated from you and from whatever you worship other than Allah. We have denied you, and there has appeared between us what? There has appeared between us al-adawata wal-baghdha'a. Okay? Until you believe in Allah alone. You see, this is where it started. Yahud and Nasara, these two camps started in chapter 60 with this story of Ibrahim leaving with his followers and his family from his people. He made a migration, a hijrah, if you will. We also see that this is the case for those who believe that they are Nasara. Let me see if I can find it. It's right here. وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ نَحْنَ نَصَّارَى قَالُوا إِنَّ نَصَّارَى. Okay? From those who say, we are Christians. Indeed, we are Christians. We took their covenant, but they forgot a portion of what they were reminded. So we caused from them, what? Animosity and the hatred. Al-adawata wal-baghdha'a. That's not a coincidence. Okay? So, now that you see that they're related to Ibrahim's people, this all makes sense why Ibrahim is not referred to as these categories. Because these categories arose from his people. There are two different schools of thought of the people of Ibrahim's religion. Okay? And you don't have to wonder what that is. Allah tells us very clearly in the Quran. Ibrahim says to his father, Azar, O my father, do not follow the devil. The devil is Iblis. Okay? So, al-Yahud claim the hand of Allah is chained. Allah says their hands are chained, and they are cursed by what they utter. Allah increases many of them in rebellion and kufr by what has been revealed, the Qur'an. So they are very averse to the Qur'an, incredibly averse to the Qur'an. Okay? The hatred and the enmity are between them toward the day of the Qiyamah. Allah extinguished the fire to the war every time they kindled it. So they're the ones that cause corruption, actually. Like Pharaoh's people cause corruption. Like Pharaoh's people cause wars. Okay? And Allah does not like corruptors. Now let's look at the next two verses, and we'll call it the end of the video. So you will surely find the most extreme from mankind in enmity, adawatan specifically, the ones who, to the ones who believe, the Yahud and the ones who ashraku. Alladhina ashraku. Okay? A lot of people think this is the mushrikeen, right? So what's interesting is they are seen as the ones who are the most basically averse to the believers. Okay? The strongest in enmity to those who believe are the Yahud and those who have committed shirk. Remember, this Alladina ashraku was already mentioned in a verse, and it was basically this verse, chapter 22, verse 17. They are contrasted with al-Majus there. Okay? And that definitely doesn't mean Zoroastrians. I'll have to discuss that in another video, Lord willing. Then we have one more verse which I find very fascinating. Okay? And is this one. We've discussed this in the video, the second episode of the Companions of the Cave series. Okay? This Yahud say Uzair is ibn Allah. Uzair is a son of Allah. And the Nasara say the Masih is son of Allah. That is their saying by their mouths. They imitate the sayings of the ones who disbelieved or blasphemed from before them. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded? Okay? The salient point here for Yahud is that they say Uzair, Osiris, not Ezra, Osiris, is Allah's son. Remember, they already said with the Nasara that they ascribe themselves as God's children. Okay? The problem is that Jews today do not see Osiris as a son of God, let alone the prophet Ezra. And so Sunnis and other groups will try to explain this away by saying, this was a extinct sect of Jews that lived at the time of the prophet that no one has proof for today, and so this verse was only applicable to that time. There's no verse, there's no evidence of that. This verse applies. The Yahud said, Uzair ibn Allah. This is a profound statement because we connect this to Osiris. Okay? Osiris connected to Egypt. Egypt connected to Fir'aun. Now you can start to see where in the world this happened. These people have a proficiency in. Okay? What's very interesting too, if that doesn't give you anything to ponder upon, okay? So, they're deluded by this. Okay, who is the deluder? All right? They have taken their ahbar and their ruhban as lords from besides Allah and the Masih ibn Maryam, and they were not commanded except to serve one God. Okay? There is no God except Him. Glory be to Him above what they associate with Him. Okay? They want to extinguish Allah's light. So when you look at it, these people, they actually translate as ahbar, as rabbis, and ruhban as monks, because they're trying to show you that they're Jews and Christians. Nothing could be further from the truth, because what is going on here actually, I'm going to make this in the next part, because I want to finish this video at this point. Ahbar is something way more significant than just rabbis, Rahban, same idea. But what's interesting is they take these people as their lords. You know what's amazing about that? The rabbis, they subconsciously tell you means lords. Rabbi. Rabbi. I mean, this is just common knowledge. If you go to Hebrew, you will find that this word means lords. My lords. Rabbi. Ravi. Master. Okay? That title only belongs to God. But what's interesting is, in the time of Egypt, Yusuf's story, they had somebody that was ruling them that they called their Lord, and they served him wine. Okay? So, Arbaban could not exist because that is a concept of shirk, that there's more than one Lord. Okay? So, this is what I want to show you, is that it looks like the Jews, if you want to call them Jews, Yahud, their leaders, Ahbar, they actually also take the Masih ibn Maryam. They take Jesus as a Lord, right? Have you ever seen Jews today taking Jesus as a Lord? I know there are some Messianic Jews, but they're not considered actually Jews by any means. This is a modern phenomenon. I mean, throughout history, for all time, do we see the epitome of what we call Jews today taking Jesus as a Lord? No, we don't. Who are the only people in the world that fit the bill when it comes to taking Jesus as a Lord? Do we not see Christians do that? Okay. Yahud are the ones that we are told they believe in the crucifixion of Jesus. And of course, Jews today, they do believe Jesus was crucified, but they believe Jesus was crucified because anything in Judaism that's hanged on a tree is cursed, because they reject Isa, Jesus, okay? They are not going to take him as a Lord, as this verse suggests. Al-Yahud take Arbaban from besides Allah and the Masih ibn Maryam. Okay? So I hope this video was informative, and you can now start to see that what we are seeing in the Quran is something on a much, much more vast, significant scale than what we've been told are just a minuscule portion of humanity. Just same with Beni Israel. We're told Beni Israel are this minuscule, tiny, elitist portion of humanity, when nothing could be further from the truth. And with that, peace.